What would be better, the sandwich I get from the coffee shop on the airport, or that birthday dinner where we have a stunning view and we booked it ahead of time?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that brings you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. So it's July.
It is.
I can't believe it. We're done half of the year already.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I feel like this year so much happened, but also feels kind of quick, but not like, I don't know. When I look back, I was like, okay, a lot of things kind of happened.
Yeah, a lot of things can happen in 6 months. But at the same time, I'm like, as close to 2026 as we are to the start of 2025. That's a weird thought.
Yeah, that's true.
But also plenty of opportunity to make the rest of the year count towards your fitness goals and, really build some momentum. You can do a lot in 6 months.
Oh my gosh. You can do a ton in 6 months.
You really can. But one thing to keep in mind is, like, if you are looking at doing something over the next 6 months, you got to start with the next 2 months, which is summer. And summer tends to be a time of year where people travel a little bit more. It's not the only time of year people travel, but I think about vacation and summer kind of go hand in hand. Now, Paris, you just got back from a vacation, which I'm very envious of. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I went to Greece. This was pretty much the first vacation in a while. So it was a long overdue one for sure. But I went to Greece, Athens, Santorini, Mykonos, and then made a stop in London to visit some of my partner's family. And then, back here. So that was, I guess, 12 days in total. And obviously, everybody was asking, as a fitness-focused person, how do you manage these kind of trips?
And you're not the only one going on these trips either. People of all different levels of their fitness journey are going on trips and traveling over the summer. A lot of our clients are traveling and asking this question too. And I think one thing to remember is, like, this whole podcast is about a sustainable fitness lifestyle. And those of us who are privileged enough to be able to travel, it's an amazing lifestyle experience. Mm-hmm. So being able to navigate your fitness journey alongside travel is so key to that sustainable lifestyle part. So hopefully all those people who are asking you how you did it, you can now send them this podcast, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Not just how you did it personally, but also use your experience as a springboard to just talk generally about how we can all do it. How can we travel? How can we enjoy vacation while staying on track with our fitness goals?
For sure. And before we kind of hop right into the valley, I want to say two things. Number one, I would say traveling is so much more fun when you're in good shape and you have good energy and you feel good about yourself. Because a lot of people spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on these vacations, which, hey, I'm all for that. If you could do it, that's amazing. But they don't feel comfortable in their own skin, so they don't enjoy it.
That's actually kind of,
which is sad, right?
Yeah.
And you glorify these vacations all year long. You're like, oh, I can't wait to these 2 weeks. I'm going to XYZ place. And then you go in there and you're like, none of my clothes look good on me. I don't want to go to the beach because I don't feel comfortable in my swimsuit. And it's like, it's not a waste because you still enjoy aspects of it. But I would say I've been in both. I've been where I didn't want to take my shirt off, and I've also been where I'm fine taking my shirt off. And let me tell you, it's so freeing when you feel confident in your own skin. So I just want to motivate people to, like, it's so much better when you're in good shape going on these trips. So that's the first thing I want to say. I don't know if you have something to add to that.
I think it's a powerful thought. And oftentimes I think we find with our clients, having a trip kind of in the calendar becomes a little bit of an incentive or motivation to really hit their goals hard. And it's not the only reason to hit your goals hard, nor should you wait for a vacation to start tackling your goals. But it's that feeling. It's that idea of, like, bringing that confidence with you that can really be inspiring to get going and build momentum.
100%. And the second thing I want to say is, I think a lot of people use the trips as a barrier to get started. Like, they're like, I don't want to get started. There's two different perspectives. One is, I want to get in really good shape for my vacation. The second one is, I'm not going to start because I have XYZ trips coming up. But here's what I like to advocate. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be another trip. And people are like, well, I have trips up. Like, I have trips coming up. Like, what are we going to think about for that? It's like, well, you don't think any of our clients have ever had any trips that they've done? Like, the amount of trip workouts I've written and strategy calls I've had for that. It's like, we're preaching sustainability, as you said. And that includes, how do we manage all different aspects and all different seasons of life? So anyway, just wanted to touch on those two things.
But no matter what phase you're in of your fitness journey, if you're in the early stages or if you're later on, it's an opportunity to figure out that lifestyle part of fitness.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to that because it's definitely something I want to leave as like a leave behind or takeaway at the end as well, once we cover off the practical stuff. But I think let's make a mental note of that, because it is really important to be like, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be, one life event or another. And you can choose to see that upcoming trip as, how do I do my best for that trip? Or how do I feel my best given the timeline I might have? Instead of using it as I'll wait till I get home.
Exactly.
Amazing. So when people think about traveling over summer and going for summer vacation, generally speaking, we've experienced, either ourselves or talking to our clients, that it can sometimes feel like it's impossible to stay on track while you're on summer vacation. Now, we're here to tell you it is very possible. But let's first acknowledge, why does it feel challenging? Why do people actually get worried about summer vacations and being able to stay on track with their fitness goals?
That's a good question. I think one of the main ones is you're completely outside of your typical routine and context and environment, where you've set up these skills around managing your variables that are required for your success in your fitness journey within this environment, within this box. And then you're being removed from that and put in a completely different context and environment with disrupted routine, and also a lot of temptations surrounding overindulgence, because typically on vacation, everybody you're with is like, oh, it's vacation, more ice cream, or let's have 10 drinks tonight, or you know what, like let's have all the burgers and cookies or whatever. So you're going from something that you've mastered your environment at home to then being removed out of that environment and put in front of a lot of temptations of overindulgences.
Yeah, let's break those into the two. The first one being the out of routine and the second one being indulgences. I think routine is powerful. Routine is so powerful. So being able to clock in to your routine every day is great. But I think one of the things that we can do, and I might be jumping ahead here, but it's like, there's the one thing that's common to your routine every day is you. Mm-hmm. You are the one living your routine every day. So you are still the one going on vacation, and you can still bring with you like the mindsets that you apply to your routine. And also you can bring with you like, what are the things that are part of your routine that might actually, we talk about anchors, right? Might be able to be replicated on vacation. And again, I know I'm jumping ahead, but I'm saying it's like, I'm just saying this to preempt the fact that we understand that being out of your environment changes a lot, because your environment dictates a lot of behavior. At the same time though, being out of routine doesn't have to be the thing that completely shakes you. The second thing you talked about was just the idea of like indulgences that tend to feel synonymous with vacation. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that vacation mindset, right? So what I have in our notes here is this idea of like, oh, I was waiting for this, or I've earned it, or I want to make the most of it. And you kind of apply this label of vacation to everything.
Yeah.
I understand that. I just want to say I understand it, because it's true. We work really hard to get to a point where we're going on vacation, or it is a big investment to go on vacation. Yeah. And it is memories that we're trying to create when we go on vacation. So let's not ignore the fact that that vacation mindset, that vacation anticipation, that desire to get the most out of your vacation is completely understandable and has a lot of merit. What would you say to that though?
Yeah, I just think that it just goes to the kind of promoting all or nothing type, because we're glorifying this vacation so much. But a lot of the times, if you truly sit back and reflect on what makes a vacation special and memorable, it's going to be the people you're with and the experiences you had and the relaxation or whatever adventure, whatever kind of vacation it is. It's going to be those things. And the fact that it is so experiential and is so different compared to your everyday life, it's the contrast between what you're doing on vacation compared to your everyday life, that makes it so amazing. It's not necessarily how much ice cream you ate or how many drinks you can have at the pool bar, right? It's more so the memories you're creating and the people that you're with. So a lot of times, if you just focus on trying to be more present when you're on vacation, and instead of being like, I'm going all out or I'm completely restricting, it's like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this, but what aspects of vacation are truly enjoyable? And it's the people and the experiences most of the time.
So you can have that I'm on vacation mindset without it being complemented by all or nothing extreme behaviors.
Yes, 100%. Good summary.
Cool. Awesome. So all that to say, we understand why it's easy to feel like summer vacations or any vacation can put you off track. Those are two reasons. To summarize, just this idea of like, hey, I'm out of my routine, lots of unfamiliar choices. How do I make the right decisions in these moments? That's what we're going to help you solve for today. And the second one is just that mindset of vacation mode and switching on instead of switching off, right? Switching on vacation mode. We're also going to talk about that at the end with a little bit of a mindset wrap up as well. Okay, so before we can dive into the practical strategies of what you can do before, during, and after your trip to stay on track, we first want to define what does it mean to stay on track. So when we're talking about, hey, staying on track with your fitness, does it mean that you have to do all the same things you do every day? And also, staying on track is going to look different from one person to the next, depending on their goals and all that. So before we dive into the practical stuff, first and foremost, we want to acknowledge what is the definition of staying on track for the purpose of this conversation.
Like it. I like this. This is important. I personally consider staying on track, and what I usually advocate for our clients too is just to focus on maintenance. So it's like, what are the inputs that we need to have while we're over there in order to maintain the current level of, fitness that we have, or current body composition, or current momentum that we have, so that when we come back, it's not like we are making up for a few steps that we went back on during the trip. It's more, we're just continuing from where we left off. And ideally you're more refreshed, you're ready to go, you're remotivated, and like we just click back in. So that is my personal,
Yeah, that's your personal definition. And I think there's a lot of power to that. But I really like that you said it's maintaining, right? So it's like keeping things consistent. So it's not necessarily having to chase progression, because that might put unrealistic expectations on your vacation. Also, that's not the point of vacation.
No.
The point of vacation is not like, let's go crush it and spend 3 hours in the gym and like, who cares? The point of vacation is to actually do the other things, but kind of having this like hum in the background of your fitness journey, right? So it's like, it's almost like having a white noise. Like your fitness becomes white noise. It's not completely silent. It's there in the background because you're keeping it on. So that's that maintenance thing you talked about, right? You're keeping it on without having to feel like, all right, I'm just going to wait until I get back to turn it back on again, right? But I also really appreciate that you said that it can be maintaining level of fitness, body composition, or momentum. Any of those three things can apply based on whatever your individual goals are at the moment.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people are worried when they do have more of a fat loss related goal. They're worried about putting on a lot of body fat. And in that case, like that's where maintenance phases are really, really important, and learning the skills of like how to maintain and knowing what that looks like and kind of what that feels like for that phase. I hope that made sense in terms of what staying on track means.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense to me, but listeners, does it make sense to you? That's the more important question. I do think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on like what you just said with the fat loss portion of things. And I think when we embrace this idea of maintaining habits or maintaining our momentum or just not regressing, then it's important to note that vacation doesn't mean you have to diet still, right? Because I think it's becomes a lot more complicated when you're thinking you have to stay in a dieting phase on vacation. And let's be honest, does anyone actually want that? Does anybody want to be dieting on vacation?
No,
not really.
I have done a couple of shorter trips, not vacations, but like trips where I was still working and still doing my normal stuff when I was in prep. And I would say I would be lying if I said it didn't have a slight reduction in the enjoyability of the trip, because I was technically dieting. I wasn't like hardcore dieting, but I was still kind of in a deficit during the trip. And I did have a fantastic time, don't get me wrong, but I would be lying if I said I wouldn't have had more fun if I wasn't in a dieting phase.
Yeah, you're making certain trade-offs, right? So first and foremost, not that you need our permission, but we give you permission to take a break from dieting if you are going on vacation, and that is what your current long-term goal is fat loss. If you're not fat loss dieting, yes. So focusing on maintaining momentum, maintaining habits, just not regressing, and seeing that as a win, because that's really what's important. And if you don't have a fat loss goal, then same things apply in terms of thinking about continuation of momentum, that white noise, silent, not so silent hum in the background. That's kind of the mindset around defining staying on track when it comes to vacation. The main goal here is to set you up so that when you come home from your vacation, you're not going, man, I feel kind of crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh man, I feel like now I have to restart. Or, oh my God, I can't believe I've undone my 6 months of effort. Any of that feeling that tends to be maybe associated with a little bit of regret or guilt. The goal of this podcast is to shake that. Like, you're not going to feel that way if you do these things. If you keep that kind of momentum through your vacation with before, during, and after strategies we're going to talk about. Anything to add about defining staying on track?
I don't think so, but I do want to give one more analogy, sorry, before we jump into the practical
I love a good
part
analogy.
of this. Courtney already gave the white noise analogy, but we have to do at least 1 or 2 analogies per episode. So this one is the snowball analogy that I use with momentum. So we talked about maintaining momentum, right? If you are making a snowman, and I might have even said this in another episode, but I'm going to say it again. If you are making a snowman and you're rolling the base of the snowman, how much harder it is to do the first initial pushes, if you think about that, compared to if the ball is already rolling. You can maintain momentum and you can maintain keeping the ball rolling with just a few touches here and there, and it's just kind of doing its physics is kind of taking over. But the first few pushes are really, really tough, which is why when you already have momentum and you're going into a trip, make sure that you just do the bare minimum pushes when you're away so that you can, and then when you're back, you're just right back in it, versus you come back and you have this massive snowball that is in a standstill and you're like, the ice has frozen and I need to push this massive ball.
Also, I was just on the beach. Why are we talking about snowmen?
Okay, or sandball. I don't know if that's a thing.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, so just, yes, I think that's a great analogy. And you can see that idea of like, if your snowman is still there waiting for you, your base is waiting for you, it hasn't melted while you're away. That's kind of the goal, right?
I like it. Yeah. So let's dive in. Let's dive in.
Let's talk about before you actually leave for your vacation. Because it starts then. It doesn't start once you walk off the plane or whatever. It starts before you leave. I'm going to kick it off with one thing I think you need to do before you leave, and then I'm going to pass it to you. I think the first thing is set your goal or your intention for the vacation. Like we just talked about how we see kind of the definition of staying on track. You need to define your own version of what it means to stay on track for your trip. And that's going to be specific to the current goals you're working towards, how long your trip actually is, what you value most from that trip, and what you're hoping to get out of it. But you need to have a sense going in of like, what does it mean for me to be on track with my goals? When I come back, how do I want to be feeling? And what does the definition of a successful vacation look like for me when it comes to my life and the vacation of life? And then also when it comes to fitness.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And even before you go on the trip, you should be visualizing yourself when you're already back and thinking about how would they want to feel and setting yourself up for that feeling that you want to feel. So I think that's really, really important. And then once you have that intention, what you can do is just set kind of the framework for your vacation. And then all you have to say is, as long as I check these boxes when I'm away, I don't need to worry. Because then you have peace of mind when you're going away. And you said, I already made this a pinky promise to myself that I'm just going to check these boxes. As long as I do that, no need for guilt. Still going to enjoy my trip. And then we're all good.
Yep, exactly. What else can you do before you leave? So the first thing is definitely like setting your intention and your definition of success. But I think you have a few other great prep methods.
Yeah, so in terms of what boxes those might be, the first one is definitely choosing what form of exercise you're going to do when you're away, and maybe looking ahead. Can I either have access to a gym, or does the hotel I'm staying in or resort I'm staying in have access to a gym? And what is a reasonable program that maybe doesn't take that long and doesn't have as many workouts if I'm usually on a higher frequency split, that I can just hit quickly, get in, get the stimulus for the muscles, and get out type thing. And if you don't have access to a gym, it's asking your coach or building it by yourself is like, what's some body weight workouts I can do? A lot of times when people are on vacation and they don't have a gym access, like for example, Rachel and John, our clients who are away right now, they do have a TRX that they're borrowed from, I think, their friend or family member. But apart from that, all their stuff is like quick 20-minute body weight circuits, 3 of them per week, right? Enough to maintain, do the best we can. We don't have access to equipment. So it's pre-planning. What is your plan of action in terms of your workouts? And that can also include on the side, like maybe you're shooting for a certain amount of steps, which is a very easy checkbox when you're on vacation. A lot of times when you're on vacation, you're enjoying walking around, seeing sightseeing, walking on the beach. Like it's almost more fun getting a higher step count than it is not.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, just I think setting your own expectations, and not just the expectations, but the plan around your workouts. So based on whatever you have access to, based on the time you're away, how many workouts is reasonable? How long do you want them to take? What can you do in terms of exercises based on availability of equipment?
Yes, yes. And I don't know if you want to give my examples, what I did when I'm in Greece, like in between here, kind of
If you
thing.
want to, yeah, why
Yeah,
not?
just quickly. So when I was away, we did actually try to go to the gym a few days before the first workout I hit, but it was closed. So for some reason, Santorini, they're super chill in Greece. So on the weekend, they're like, we don't need to be open.
Weekends are not for workouts.
So I kind of backloaded my workouts into Mykonos and then London. So I hit 4 sessions. I hit kind of like a push pull and then 2 full body ish type sessions with a relatively decent gyms. And I just had a certain amount of volume per muscle group I wanted to hit. Kept it very simple. A lot of the strategies we used in that episode that we talked about with saving time on the gym, I used those. And that was my
Up here and down in the comments / description below, you'll find that if you're looking for it. And you said you were away for 12 days, right? So just to put into perspective for people, what I know about you is your current training split is 5 days a week. So 5 out of 7 days. In this case, you went 4 for 12, right? And that's okay, right? Because your goal is not to set PRs. Your goal is just to get a little bit of stimulus, keep that white noise hum going, maintain.
And let me tell you, coming back off that, I kind of treat it as almost like a deload, right? My nervous system felt pretty good. And like my training these past 2 weeks, after the first couple of days of recovering from the jet lag, like once that was over, like I've been crushing it with the training. Like my body feels really good. The pumps are insane. My endurance is insane. So it's like you can refresh yourself.
The vacation can be refreshing in terms of life and mindset, but also when it comes to your fitness. So see that as an opportunity. Absolutely. Okay, we got one more prep strategy for before you leave for your vacation. This one is actually really critical because when it comes to your training, you can't decide what equipment you're going to have access to. Usually, I mean, if you have like bands you can take with you or things like that, yes. But most of the time, if you're in a hotel, it's like, okay, what have they got and that kind of thing. But what you can decide to have with you is what's on your packing list.
Mm-hmm.
So your packing list can be really helpful when it comes to ensuring that you have the tools you need to be successful. And I'm leaning actually a little bit more onto the nutrition side of things here. Now, remember, one of the reasons we gave up front for why people find it hard to stay on track is because they're out of their routine.
Yeah.
And that applies to food choices as well. When it comes to your packing list, though, you can ask yourself, what are the things that are part of my routine that I actually might want to bring with me? Because now, even if you're in an unfamiliar environment, you've now brought the anchors, as we always call them, of your routine with you. And now, I'm going to preface, it doesn't mean every meal is coming from your suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point. The point is, though, you have the things that you know you need to be successful. Most basic one being pack some protein powder. And if you're worried about having powdery substances going through security, don't worry. We've done it a million times.
Even creatine is a white powder. It looks exactly like a suspicious powder.
Yeah, and it's fine, right? You can bring, so to answer the question, you can bring protein powder on a flight with you, no problem. So if you put some in a little container, Ziploc bag, and you pack that with you, at least you know if you have protein goals, which you probably should, and we hope you do, you can cover that base by having your protein powder with you. It can be that simple. Now, I'll actually give a little example from my vacation wasn't quite as extravagant as yours, and I didn't get on a flight or anything, but there were some beaches involved. In May, I was in Tofino for a week, 6 days. What I did was I definitely packed my protein powder. I also packed like instant oats. Nice. We were really fortunate that our hotel room had a kettle. So me just checking the pictures of the hotel room in advance told me that. So I brought instant oat packets because I knew some days I would still want to have my oats for breakfast. And that gave me way more flexibility to eat other things later in the day when we had, specific dinner reservations and things like that. So that's a staple for me, an anchor in my routine. Bring that with me, helped me feel like I was on track with my goals.
That's awesome, Court. I like that. That's really, really important. And I will tell you, whey protein has saved me so many times. Like there are so many nights where I came home and I was kind of doing the mental math in my brain of like, and then you just slam a shake or two and like, you're like, all right, good, done. Versus stressing and having to order something and you're like, oh shoot, I'm low. It sounds so simple, but I'm telling you, all our clients who go on trips and bring protein powder, they're like, wow, that was such like a helpful thing. I'm like, it helps. Just bring the freaking protein powder and protein bars too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're flying, obviously you might have different things you can pack with you than if you're driving. If you're road
Yes.
tripping, you can even pack a cooler bag with some Greek yogurt, fruits and veggies like apples are super portable, a bag of baby carrots. But point being, build a packing list that helps you have some of those routine food choices as anchors while you're traveling.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Okay, this episode might run a little bit longer, but we want to make sure we cover all of the strategies for before, during, and after your trip. So let's move into the during portion. During your trip, do you want to kick things off here, Paris?
Yes. This is the part where we get off the plane, we get to the hotel, and we're all of a sudden like super excited, and we feel like a little kid on Christmas morning. And then because of that mindset, a lot of times then it goes into like, okay, now we're going way into the food and drinks right away, and then we just get lost like immediately like this. So as we talked about, being present in the moment and knowing what boxes you need to check ahead of time, like you plan for, and like we just talked about, but then following that. So for example, like when you're over there, it's really nice to know, okay, visualizing how your days are going to run roughly, and that way you can kind of choose things like, okay, how many meals am I going to have, what are those going to look like, how am I going to organize my day with my eating a little bit, and then I'm all for kind of choosing your indulgences as well.
A lot of people, when they plan a trip, they have an itinerary,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And if you're traveling and you're doing like a trip, then you might have more of an itinerary than if you're doing like a resort stay, let's say. But either
Yes.
way, you have some semblance of, we're doing these things on these days. Why can't you do the same thing with the elements of your fitness journey and feed it into that itinerary? So I'm going to go back to an example for a second. When Justin and I were in Tofino, we had a loose itinerary where we kind of had one activity each day. So I'd know how many meals I was having based on those activities. Which ones was I prioritizing lunch out versus dinner out? Which reservations did we have? Which other activities did we do? Because we had surfing lessons one day. So I took the trip itinerary and I just kind of built my eating schedule around it. Now, I know it sounds like a little bit of effort, but planning any trip takes some effort. There's no harm. Actually, there's only benefit in directing a little bit of that effort towards planning your kind of eating itinerary too.
Yeah, and if you're very fitness focused, it will actually allow you to take it from somebody who struggles a lot with being present in the moment and always planning on the future. If you have the plan, it actually gives you peace of mind to become more present because you're not worried about, oh, did I go over? Did I do this? Oh, I should have done this with my food, blah, blah, blah. You don't have all these thoughts floating around because you're saying, I've already planned this and here's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing when I went in Greece. I was like, okay, today's going to be a 2 big meal and a snack day. And I know in those 2 meals, I need roughly this amount of calories. And then the snack's going to be roughly this, right? Or today's going to be a 4 meal day. So I'm going to have 4 moderate kind of hits of food. So just kind of knowing that and then developing your skills on being able to eyeball these things, being able to understand your hunger cues and being like, I'm not really hungry. I'm not going to eat that last 2 slices of bread. I'm going to save more calories for dinner. Like little things like that might seem like small, but over the course of a 12-day trip, could be a significant difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're there, stick with some sort of itinerary, some sort of structure. But the main thing is, and you alluded to this, you said, I chose my indulgences. Mm-hmm. Pick your moments.
Yeah.
Because all of a trip is going to be one macro moment, let's call it. It's one big moment is your vacation. But there are smaller moments within that. And being able to distinguish between the ones that are like, okay, we're kind of in between this thing and this thing. I need a meal just to kind of like keep me going. You don't need to place as much glorification on that meal as maybe the one that's like, hey, we've booked this really amazing reservation for our final night here. It's got a stunning view, and I know that the food is known to be 5-star.
Yeah.
Which meal would you want to indulge in? You don't have to indulge in both, because the first one, which is just I'm getting from this place to this place, is probably not going to even feel that special. So we don't need to indulge. But the last one, that could be memories that last you a lifetime. Yeah. And I'm not trying to sound dramatic, but
no, it's true. Like we had a birthday dinner for Tara, and it's like, yeah, what would be better, the sandwich I get from the coffee shop on the airport, or like that birthday dinner where we have a stunning view and we booked it ahead of time? It's like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to save more food for that meal, right? I really like that, Court. And then also, alcohol is part of this as well. A lot of people, I probably drink maybe 3 times a year. Courtney doesn't really drink much at all. I drink less and less every year, I find. But I did drink twice on vacation, but I knew that I didn't want to get carried away with the drinking because I'm actually slightly like dopamine driven as a person, so like I can just do a lot of stuff if I find I like it, which is why I don't drink a lot. But in this case, I knew that I wouldn't feel good after if I drank too much because it's too easy. You're at the pool bar, you're by the beach, you could just keep drinking every day at dinner. Let's have another glass of wine. You know what I mean? So I chose these are my 2 days where it's going to enhance the experience because I think people rely on alcohol as the experience. I see alcohol as an experience enhancer. So it's like these are my 2 moments that I really want to enhance. One of them was this kind of beach club that we went to called Scorpios in Mykonos. Highly recommend it. And the other day was actually in Athens, where it was like our second night there. We were getting excited about the trip, and we were trying out a couple of like rooftop bars. So I said, okay, I'm going to have 2 to 4 drinks at both of those times, and eat slightly less during the day to accommodate that. And then also that's an amount of drinks that enhances the experience without any side effects.
Yeah, because if you are on vacation, like vacation is supposed to help you feel good. So if you're going overboard with those things and it's starting to interfere with your ability to actually feel good, then that might be a sign that maybe that isn't actually serving you, and not just your fitness goals but also your vacation goals. But I really really like how you were selective with like these are the moments where you use the language enhancing. So
Mm-hmm.
identifying when certain indulgences, alcohol, dessert, more calorically dense foods might actually enhance the experience. This is such a powerful way to break that all or nothing mindset around vacation. You're actually going to make those moments feel more special. Let's say you're at that airport cafe and you're like, I'm going to have this crappy sandwich, but I'm also going to have 3 beers because I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
What if you're sitting at the Toronto airport having 3 Molson Canadians? How is that special? Right?
Yeah.
Versus being like, I'm going to drink when it matters. And those drinks are going to be savored. It allows you to be present in those moments that matter. And there's no sense of regret. Not that there should
Yeah.
be either way, but there's no sense of
No.
regret.
But I knew if I did overdo it, I would be feeling guilty about it, and would I hate being hungover. That's probably why I don't drink. But like 2 to 4 drinks is like it's not that much for me, at least at this body weight. Like I can feel it a little bit, but I won't be hungover. I'm not gonna have any sleep disruption. Like it just kind of loosens me up a little bit. That was like the perfect balance. But a younger person wouldn't have been able to do that. So all these things we're talking about, maybe it's important to talk about this too during the trip. It comes with maturity, and you will build your systems, behaviors, and skills over time. And you're not going to nail it your first trip. Trust me. I've never seen somebody nail it their first trip, right?
No, I kind of actually had a note on this to include at the end, but I'm going to say it here too. Because if you're listening to this being like, holy, this is complicated, like, this is a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
The reason Paris and I are talking about it so freely or seemingly freely is because we've been doing this for 10 years each. So you have a collective like 20 years of trying to go through different life experiences, trying different vacations, different types of trips, trips with different people, trips in different places. We've gone through it the last, like, again, like 20 years combined experience doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only able to talk about it now because we've figured out what works for us and what's made us feel really, really good on vacation and with our fitness goals. So please don't think like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to think like this, or this is way too complicated, it's not even worth trying. Because every time you do try and you test out something new, or even if you did overindulge, but you at least sit with it and go like, okay, what would I have wanted to do differently? Or what were my moments that I could have picked? That is where this thinking becomes more natural every single time.
Yeah. It takes practice. And God knows I've messed up so many times going out. Again, I don't want to make this too long a podcast, but I remember even one time when I was like maybe 18 or less, 6, 17, one of my first fat loss phases, I went to my friend Corbin's cottage. Shout out Corbin, haven't talked to you in a while. And I drank a lot and I ate a lot of chips and like burgers or something. And the first night, your body can take maybe one big night. The next night I woke up, I was super vascular. I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. But then after 2 more days of that, I came back feeling like an absolute just like water balloon. And I felt like crap about myself for the next like week and a half. And it robbed me of being present for the next week and a half because I was focused on like, how did I erase so much progress, right? So these are all good things that you learn, but it's okay because over time you'll look back and be like, it's all good.
It's all part of the practice. Okay, so we're still in the during element, during your trip. And now we talked a lot about like picking your big moments, identifying your daily eating itinerary, alcohol management. One thing I do want to talk a little bit about is actually on the activity level side, because we just kind of covered more nutrition. And I know you said upfront you can plan out kind of workout sessions and things like that. You also talked about steps, right? And I think it is important, depending on the nature of your vacation, steps might require a little more effort, or they might just be, I'm going to blow through my step targets.
Yeah.
If you're doing like a sightseeing vacation, you're naturally most likely going to get a lot of steps. And that's something you should take some comfort in, because you're like, all right, I know I'm going to stay active anyways, all good. Like when we were in Tofino, we did a few hikes and I was like, okay, great. You know, those hikes or those walks down to the beach and back, they add up, right? So knowing that steps can be a really great indicator of maintaining activity levels. If we're approaching vacations as kind of maintenance phases, maintaining your steps is a really big part of it. I also do want to shout out though that sometimes vacation can also be an opportunity to do different physical activity that still quote unquote counts, depending again on the type of vacation you're on. But I'll reference my recent one again, which was when we were in Tofino, we went surfing. Surfing is not part of my routine.
It's not in your program.
It's not in my program. Yeah, surfing is not in my program. But we did it, actually we took a lesson and that was like a 2-hour session. Then we also went on our own 2 days later and we did like another 2 or 3 hours of surfing. And I mean, it's not lifting weights, but it's exhausting. So I think it can be a cool opportunity if you are on vacation, asking yourself, are there forms of physical activity that aren't part of my routine that would enhance my experience by allowing me to try something new? Or like playing beach volleyball while you're at the beach at a resort or things like that.
Absolutely. I like it.
Cool. Okay. Are we finally ready to hit the after?
Yes, I think.
All right.
And we'll wrap it up with the mindset and the after together.
Yeah. Thank you everyone who's tuned in this far. We know we're a little bit longer than our usual half hour. So afterwards, because when you come home from vacation, it doesn't end there because nothing quote unquote started or ended. It's just, like we said, maintaining certain things. So do we want to talk about what do you do when you get home?
The worst thing you can do is have a lot of guilt and try to compensate and play the compensation game for what just happened. Even if you maybe did a little bit too much of the indulging or something like that, you're always going to want to just go in and over restrict right away. That's going to be your first kind of thought that comes to mind. You're like, okay, when I get back home, I need to like double up on my cardio and slash my calories. And yeah, do something stupid like a juice cleanse, stupidest thing ever. We'll do a whole other podcast on that. So that's going to be your first thought that's going to come in, right? But you need to just think about the goal is just get back in your routine, get back into your usual, pace of things, your usual boxes that you check, and then you can decide what's the best decision in terms of the directionality. Hopefully, if you maintain correctly, then you just continue the directionality you had planned from before. That's most of the time the case. But a lot of times we feel that inkling to over restrict, not because we actually did as much quote unquote damage as we think, but because we lost the control and we have it. We want to reinstill the control. That's why we feel that way. It's not necessarily that we backtrack in a lot of progress. It's just that we missed the control that we had before we left.
We did a post on our Instagram like a while ago on the Truth Body Systems Instagram. And it was this idea, analogy time. Haha. If you are driving, okay, and the GPS says, go straight, and you turn right. You turn right too early, okay? What do? You get back on to the path that was taking you straight to begin with. You don't now all of a sudden go too far left just because you went too far right.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's where the overcompensation thing can actually just lead you off track. It literally leads you away from the direction you're heading. You just need to focus on get back on the path that takes you straight. Don't worry about going overcorrecting to the left. Just get back on the path that takes you straight.
Yes.
And I think if we go back to that fear of vacation as like being out of routine, why are you going to come back and try to change your routine? Like you're actually just doubling down on that fear versus going back, just focus on routine. And like you said, identify those boxes. What are the things that are part of my routine that support me and my goals? That's what you got to do. That's your game plan.
And also acknowledge that sometimes it's going to take a little while for the mindset to click back in. Like I was talking with our client Nick's earlier, and he had a trip and he came back and he was like, man, I just don't feel motivated this week. I was like, it's normal because you've been in vacation mode and you've done all these things. And now like, just give yourself some time, just take the actions and your psychology is going to catch up. And then you're going to be feeling good. And also in terms of your body composition, especially if you fly or you maybe had a few too many indulgences here and there, or different foods, you're going to look watery, but your body will look better. Literally just get back to your routine for like 2 weeks and you're already going to notice, oh wow, it wasn't really as bad as I thought.
Absolutely. And like you said, with water retention, I think people need to really, really be careful. Like when you step on the scale, do not naturally think, oh my God, I gained 10 pounds on vacation. Like out of routine, different food choices, maybe a little bit more food, flying. I had a client that came back from a cruise recently and she got on the scale. It was about 7 pounds up. And she said to me, you know what? I'm okay with that because, relative to body weight, she's like, I'm okay. And I was like, good. I'm glad you're okay. She also knew though, because she had past experience seeing the scale fluctuate. She knew we gave it 2 days and it was down 5 pounds from that weigh in.
Yeah.
Because she just dropped that water weight.
Especially if you are a heavier person or you used to be a heavy person, your ability to store water is crazy. You can store so much body water. And then also people tend to be less regular as well, not to be graphic, but when they're away. So then you add that on top of it. So all these factors, like give yourself some time to settle in. If the scale is a mindset, mess up for you, then just don't weigh yourself for the first week when you're back.
Yep. I think that's a really, really, really important thing to take note of. Sometimes I think there's people who see the number on the scale and then they overcompensate, they over-restrict, they do all those things, which becomes even less necessary when you actually understand that the scale is probably going to tell you something that doesn't look great, but doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then the last one I would say is I'm just going to shoot these off really quickly. Plan your gym schedule. Again, just take those actions. Don't worry if you're not feeling motivated to get there. Just plan the days, put it in your calendar, and also do a grocery restock. Don't delay that part. Make sure you have the food choices on hand you need to be successful. Don't wait till next week. If you come back on vacation, it's a Wednesday. Don't be like, I'll do groceries on next Sunday. Just get it done. Make sure you have what you need.
I think I even ordered my groceries from the airport. And I was like, let me just set myself up because I knew this. Because again, when you have experience doing these things, you're saying, what did I do last time that did not work? Let me not do that this time. So, yeah.
Did last time, but we're running out of time.
Tuna and frozen broccoli for that. Just kidding.
Yeah, so if you don't want tuna and frozen broccoli, get your grocery restock done or order your groceries to come so they're ready for you. All right, we've gone through the before, during, and after of how you can stay on track around vacation. Now let's wrap it up with a quick mindset. There's so much mindset behind this, but we're going to try to streamline.
We talked a lot about it.
We talked a lot about mindset.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things I do really want to acknowledge. And the first thing is we don't look at 1 week at home and be like, that 1 week defines my whole fitness journey because I was so locked in. So don't let 1 week of vacation define your whole fitness journey if you feel like you're off track, right?
Exactly.
Just think about the bigger picture, zoom out, make sure you're feeling like you achieved your custom version of success for your vacation, and just focus on the big picture. Focus on what comes next, focus on what you can do during, focus on what you can do before, but don't place too much weight on 1 week.
Yes. Especially if you crush it for 52 weeks of the year and you had 1 week that was not optimal, it's not really going to matter that much, right? Seriously.
Especially if that quote unquote not optimal ended up giving you a lot of other value in terms of life experiences, connections, self-awareness, all of these things, those matter too.
Yeah. And then the last question to ask yourself in reflection, I know this episode is thicker than a Snicker, so we're going to wrap it up, but it's the last reflection that I usually tell our clients to do is, what would you have done differently in the trip that would have maybe allowed us to hang on to more progress if they find they overindulged without sacrificing on the experience that you just had? That is the question to ask yourself. It's not, how could we have been better on that and not had a good time? It's, what could we have changed about it that wouldn't have sacrificed any of the experience, but allowed us to stay a little bit more on track?
And the flip side is, what did you feel really confident in doing that kept you on track?
Yeah.
While also enjoying. You need to acknowledge both sides, right? So if you feel like you're overindulging, definitely answer your question. But I think there's also merit in not being like, I did great, let's move on. I think you also need to acknowledge what worked, because that'll come with you the next time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Sweet. Thank you everybody for tuning into this 1.5 times the length episode. Vacations are important, and we hope that you're able to make the most of them and really feel great going on vacation and feel great coming home from vacation. If you have a vacation coming up, let us know where you're headed. Well, we'd love to kind of live vicariously through you. Or if you want us to come. So, well, maybe not. You go enjoy your vacation. Hopefully you found some of these before, during, and after approaches useful. And please drop a comment below with your upcoming vacation details. And if you do want help strategizing around vacation, reach out to us, drop a comment, find us on Instagram. We're here to help. All right. Bye for now, everyone. We'll see you with another episode of Truth Talks in your feed next Monday. Have a great week ahead.